China protests the US downing of a Chinese balloon over Atlantic waters, saying it violates international norms. Former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf has died in Dubai after a long illness. He was 79.
Pope Francis calls for South Sudan to make a fresh start towards reconciliation and end the violence tearing the nation apart.
The US has shot down a giant Chinese balloon that it says has been spying on key military sites across the country. Footage on local TV networks showed the balloon falling to the sea after a small explosion. Republicans had criticized President Joe Biden for not shooting down the balloon sooner, but the administration argued it would have endangered civilians.
I told them to shoot it down.
On Wednesday?
On Wednesday.
But the recommendation...
They said to me, let's wait till the safest place to do it.
What does this mean for China, relations with China?
China insists it was a weather balloon that veered off course. Its foreign ministry later expressed what it called strong dissatisfaction and protest against the US's, quote, attack on civilian unmanned aircraft. So far, the only consequence known to the public has been the cancellation of the Secretary of State Antony Blinken's trip to Beijing, where he was to meet President Xi Jinping. Pakistan's former President General Pervez Musharraf has died at age 79. The ex-leader, who seized power in a coup in 1999, died in Dubai after a long illness. Perhaps most famously, Musharraf supported the US-led invasion of Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks, despite domestic opposition. From 2001, he served as Pakistan's president for 7 years until he was defeated in 2008. In 2016, Musharraf sought medical treatment in Dubai and never returned. He had been living in exile ever since.
63. That's the number of Russian soldiers Moscow says have returned from Ukraine on Saturday following a prisoner swap. The troops included some special category detainees who were released after the United Arab Emirates helped facilitate the exchange. However, the Kremlin's defense ministry hasn't provided any details on these particular captives. Meanwhile, the head of Ukraine's presidential office, Andriy Yermak, took to Telegram on Saturday to say that Moscow released 116 Ukrainian troops. Some of these prisoners of war were captured in the eastern city of Bakhmut and from the devastated port city of Mariupol during Moscow's months-long siege surrounding the Azovstal steelworks. This comes amid fresh reports of civilian deaths in Ukraine. President Zelensky's officials say 3 people have been killed by Russian shelling and missile strikes over the past 24 hours. Permanent border controls on the Czech-Slovak border have come to an end. The Czech Republic introduced the move at the end of last September due to increased migration. It was supposed to last 10 days. At the time, officials argued the checks were necessary after authorities detained some 12,000 migrants on the territory last year. The majority were from Syria. Czech Interior Minister Vít Rakusan said this figure has significantly dropped, but confirmed police surveillance will remain in the border area on and off roads. South Sudan's church cannot remain neutral. These were the words of Pope Francis on Saturday as he ministered to the Catholic clergy on the penultimate day of his trip to Africa. The mostly Christian country broke away from its predominantly Muslim neighbour, Sudan, in 2011, but civil war broke out in 2013. Political leaders reached a peace deal in 2018, but South Sudan is still plagued by bouts of violence. Crowds numbering several thousand greeted the 86-year-old pontiff outside of St. Therese Cathedral in the capital, Juba. Some 2 million people are internally displaced in South Sudan. Extreme poverty, catastrophic floods and continued fighting have forced many to flee their homes. Francis also highlighted the plight of South Sudanese women, half of whom are married before the age of 18 and are subject to rampant sexual violence. The war-torn country also holds the world's highest maternal mortality rate.